Though rumors of scandals and secrets were frequently carried by the soft breeze in Riverton, nothing had shocked the town as much as Miranda Thompson's unexplained death. One summer morning, Miranda, a well-liked local artist noted for her colorful paintings and kind disposition, was discovered dead in her studio. Everyone was stunned by the news and began looking for explanations as it spread like wildfire. Daniel Thompson, Miranda's spouse, was a reputable businessman who had made their comfortable living in the tech sector. From the outside, their marriage appeared to be ideal. Two successful people who were a good match. However, a tempest was brewing behind the closed doors of their stately home. The talk of the town was Daniel's adultery with Sofia Vega, a younger woman, even though he never publicly acknowledged it. 2 years earlier, Sofia, an incredibly attractive and driven woman, had moved to Riverton and gained a reputation for her charisma and charm. Daniel was looking to invest in commercial properties when she met him while working as a real estate agent. Their business partnership swiftly evolved into a personal one, and the affair started. Daniel seemed to be incredibly infatuated with Sofia, spending an increasing amount of time away from home, even though their relationship was scandalous. Detective Laura Bennett, an experienced detective known for her astute intuition and methodical approach, took charge of the investigation into Miranda's death. Bennett was aware that secrets were frequently hidden just beneath the surface in a small town like Riverton, where everyone knew one another's business. She began her investigation by going to the Thompson home, where Daniel looked upset and lost. Supported by flight records and alibis, he claimed to have been away on a business trip the night Miranda passed away. According to Bennett's first impression of the crime scene, Miranda had been painting through the night. Her most recent creation, an incomplete portrait of a woman, was vivid and unsettling in its incompleteness as it stood on the easel. Nothing seemed to have been taken, and there were no indications of forced entry, which points to a more private reason for the crime. Bennett's investigation revealed that Miranda had told Jessica Parker, a close friend, about her suspicions about Daniel's extramarital affair. Jessica disclosed that Miranda had grown more agitated and suspicious in the weeks preceding her demise. Believing that someone was observing her, this information raised a new line of inquiry and raised the possibility of deliberate foul play. Bennett's next line of inquiry took her to Sofia Vega. Sofia pretended to be innocent while expressing shock and grief over Miranda's passing. She acknowledged the affair but insisted it was over, saying she had learned from her mistake and didn't mean any harm to Miranda. Sofia seemed calm, but there was a hint of tension in her responses, as Bennett could see in her eyes. A crucial piece of evidence was discovered during forensic examination of the crime scene. A long, dark hair strand discovered close to Miranda's body. This finding was important because Miranda had short, blonde hair. After more research showed that the hair matched Sofia, DNA testing proved the hair did not belong to Miranda. In contrast to what Sofia had previously said, this discovery placed her at the scene of the crime. As the evidence against Sofia grew, her facade started to break. While being questioned by Detective Bennett in close quarters, Sofia acknowledged that she was present at the Thompson home on the evening of Miranda's death, but she maintained that this was entirely coincidental. She said she had gone there to confront Daniel about calling it quits on their relationship permanently, and that she had left the house without any problems after discovering it was empty. But her story's contradictions and the tangible proof presented a different picture. A string of text messages between Sofia and Daniel that hinted at a more elaborate plot were discovered during Bennett's investigation. Sofia begged Daniel to leave Miranda in these messages, but Daniel appeared hesitant, divided between his love for Sofia and his obligation to his wife. The messages became darker in tone, and Sofia alluded to taking drastic steps to ensure their future together. When the puzzle pieces began to come together, Bennett was faced with the difficult task of figuring out Miranda's death's true cause. The evidence from the investigation suggested that the crime was a passionate one, motivated by control and jealousy. Bennett couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than what first appeared, even though the evidence against Sofia was growing and the case appeared to be nearing its conclusion. The people of Riverton, whose formerly quiet town was suddenly the center of a scandalous tragedy, kept a close eye on the investigation as it proceeded. Bennett was aware that the truth lay somewhere in the complex web of love, treachery, and ambition, and it was her responsibility to uncover it at all costs. The investigation's foundation had been rocked by the revelation of Sophia's involvement in the crime scene, but it had also presented Detective Laura Bennett with new opportunities to pursue. Once the media picked up the story, Riverton was a hive of speculation, with reporters and curious bystanders turning the once quiet streets into a frenzy. Unfazed by the increasing attention, Detective Bennett continued her investigation. She was aware that circumstantial evidence alone would not suffice to establish Sophia's guilt. To piece together the evil scheme she suspected was in motion, she needed hard evidence. Bennett's team broadened their search to encompass Sophia and Daniel's communication logs and financial records. They soon discovered a string of dubious transactions that suggested a more extensive plot. Significant amounts of money were transferred between Sophia's account and an offshore organization, according to her bank records. Bennett found, after more investigation, that these monies were routed through a front company connected to a man by the name of Victor Reyes. Reyes was a well-known associate of Sophia's from her previous life in a nearby city. He was known for her involvement in a number of illegal activities, such as fraud and blackmail. Concerns were raised by this connection, which implied that Sophia might not have acted alone. When Bennett brought Victor in for questioning, the veteran detective's relentless interrogation techniques finally broke him, despite Victor's initial act of dumbness. Victor acknowledged that Sophia had come to him with a scheme to kill Miranda and had promised him a large quantity of money in exchange for his help. His job was to set up a distraction so that Sophia would have the necessary alibi. Victor countered that Sophia had told him it was only a scare tactic to get Miranda to leave Daniel, rather than a real threat. Bennett now had a better understanding of the deliberate nature of the crime, thanks to Victor's confession. Sophia's motivation was obviously to take Miranda out of the picture, because she thought that once his wife was gone, Daniel would finally be hers. Her calculated plan's intricacy demonstrated that she was prepared to take drastic measures in order to accomplish her objectives. When Bennett's team found surveillance footage from the night of the murder, the next piece of the puzzle fit perfectly. Sophia was seen buying a bottle of cleaning solvent and a pair of gloves by the cameras at a convenience store. When combined with Victor's evidence and the DNA evidence, the case against Sophia was solidifying. The district attorney was shown Bennett's findings and concurred that there was enough proof to accuse Sophia of killing Miranda. But one unresolved matter persisted in Bennett's thoughts: Daniel's involvement. The texts between him and Sophia indicated he knew she was growing more desperate, but was he really not involved in carrying out the plan? In an attempt to find any unspoken collaboration, Bennett made the decision to bring Daniel in for a closer examination. Though clearly rattled, Daniel remained adamantly innocent throughout the interrogation. He adamantly denied any role in his wife's demise, even as he acknowledged the affair and Sophia's erratic behavior. Bennett was not persuaded and made the decision to look more closely at Daniel's digital footprint. They discovered a string of encrypted emails exchanged between Daniel and an unidentified contact during this deep dive. When these emails were decrypted, they showed correspondence with someone going by the alias Raven. The content was disturbing. It included conversations about plans for the future with Sophia and Miranda, as well as detailed discussions about life without her. The chilly and methodical tone of the emails suggested that Daniel didn't really care about Miranda's well-being. Daniel's pretense of innocence broke in the face of this evidence. He broke down and admitted that although he had not been a part of the murder, he had supported Sophia's extreme measures because he thought that was the only way he could get out of his marriage. One of the most dramatic trials in Riverton's history ensued after. There were many people in the courtroom, all excited to see the drama play out. The prosecution presented a strong case against Sophia and Daniel, portraying them as participants in a lethal plot motivated by avarice and lust. Sophia's attorney endeavored to depict her as a victim of Daniel's deceit and manipulation, a woman driven insane by his falsehoods and promises. Daniel's defense, meanwhile, contended that he was only a coy participant, enmeshed in Sophia's vortex of obsession. Victor Reyes was one of the witnesses who gave a particularly damning account of Sophia. Jessica Parker also spoke up, evoking a vivid picture of a woman haunted by the knowledge of her husband's betrayal and sharing Miranda's fears and suspicions in the weeks preceding her death. The defense abruptly changed course and called Daniel to testify. In an attempt to place all the blame squarely on Sophia, he tried to paint her as a cunning manipulator who had drawn him into her web of lies in his testimony. However, the prosecution dismantled his story, exposing his inconsistencies and lies, using the decrypted emails and surveillance footage as weapons. The jury was burdened with the decision for several days as they deliberated. Ultimately, they found Daniel Thompson and Sofia Vega both guilty. Daniel was sentenced to 20 years in prison for his involvement in the conspiracy and for encouraging and abetting the crime, while Sophia was given a life sentence without the possibility of release. Riverton recovered from the ordeal gradually, but the tragedy's scars persisted. Even though the case was successfully resolved, Detective Laura Bennett was extremely depressed. Justice had been served and the case resolved, but the lives that the tragic events had destroyed could never be rebuilt. The town resumed its routine, but Miranda Thompson's tragic death story continued to serve as a moving reminder of the darkness that can exist beneath the surface of seemingly ideal lives. Ever watchful, Bennett carried on with her work, knowing that there would always be more secrets to solve and mysteries to solve in her line of work. The town of Riverton was left to deal with the disturbing revelations following the trial. The once idyllic village was forever altered, its boundaries forever haunted by the knowledge that such evil had lain there. Because of the case's intricacy and the significant effects it had on all parties concerned, Detective Laura Bennett considered it to be among the most difficult of her career. While Riverton started to recover, Bennett thought about the people whose lives had been irrevocably changed. The community had looked to Miranda Thompson, the innocent victim, as a source of warmth and inventiveness. There was an unfillable void left by her passing. Jessica Parker, one of her closest friends, had been devastated and was finding it difficult to accept the betrayal and the loss. Jessica, in spite of her loss, used her suffering to preserve Miranda's legacy by planning a number of charity functions and art shows in her memory. Daniel Thompson met a quick and violent end. Once a well-liked businessman, he fell from grace and became associated with dishonesty and betrayal. He had to deal with the fallout from his deeds while incarcerated, and his future looked very different from what he had once dreamed of. His relationship with Sophia had exposed the depths of his moral collapse and ultimately been his downfall. Conversely, Sofia Vega continued to be a figure of fascination and disgust. Her allure and beauty had concealed a perilous ambition and a readiness to demolish anything that got in her way. She was alone in prison, her hopes of living a life with Daniel dashed. Her life sentence served as a continual reminder of her arrogance and the true cost of her deeds. The murder of Miranda eventually became a part of Riverton's history, serving as a warning about the perils of unbridled desire and the value of morality. Detective Bennett continued working on other cases, and with each victory, her standing as a determined and perceptive investigator grew. However, the Thompson case continued to stick in her mind, serving as a reminder of the complexity of human nature and the erratic paths that jealousy and love can forge. A new development years later reopened interest in the case. A detailed account of Sofia Vega's life behind bars was provided in a memoir published by a former prison guard who had worked during Sofia's incarceration. The woman portrayed in the book was one who, rather than taking full ownership of her actions, saw herself as a victim of circumstance and deceit. This viewpoint sparked discussions about justice, responsibility, and the nature of evil, rekindling public interest. The memoir also revealed previously unreported information about Sofia's upbringing, painting a picture of a difficult upbringing and a string of abusive relationships that helped to mold the woman she became. While some readers sympathized with her situation, Others perceived it as an attempt to deflect responsibility and avoid taking responsibility. The ensuing conversations brought to light the case's ongoing fascination, as well as its wider implications for comprehending criminal behavior. Jessica Parker persisted in her efforts to uphold Miranda's legacy in the interim. Created in her honor, the Miranda Thompson Art Foundation has grown to be a vital part of the Riverton community, providing support to regional artists and raising awareness of mental health issues. Jessica's commitment made sure Miranda's soul continued to live on, inspiring upcoming generations with her love of art. Now retired, Detective Laura Bennett frequently found herself thinking back on the case in her own time. Through her work, she had witnessed both the best and worst aspects of humanity, and the Thompson case perfectly captured this dichotomy. It was a reminder that seeking justice and the truth was always important, even in the most difficult circumstances. Miranda, Daniel, and Sophia's tale was a complicated tapestry of tragedy, treachery, and love. It emphasized how brittle human relationships are and how damaging it is to be betrayed of trust. It was a moment in Riverton history that the residents would never forget, and a sobering reminder of the evil that can lurk behind even the most exquisite facades. The years passed, but Miranda's colorful paintings and warm smile lingered on in memory, like a ray of hope amid the gloom of the past. Even though the town had moved on, the lessons she had to teach remained relevant, serving as a reminder of the value of truth and the unwavering pursuit of justice.